Anyway, let's get started. Maybe high-level view. What do you see God is doing in the urban landscape in Europe?
Yeah, well, Europe is actually a wide variety of nations and cities anyway. From the Balkan, it's very different than the eastern part, and the south and the north and the west. So Europe is a landscape, right? And the realities in cities are different. So in Western Europe, we have this years of church decline, secularism, postmodernism, very secular cities. And we see that what God is doing is restoring the church to its original function, to be not only a place of spirituality, but a place of kingdom influence. And because of we come from the margins, it is a movement that is humble, and you have to look for it to really spot what God is doing. But if you combine all the small waves together, we see it's a significant stream of change and of hope and of impact that is growing. And that's also in other parts of Europe, but they come from different realities. For instance, in Athens, there's a city movement arising, but they have to deal with the Orthodox reality. Spain, and that's more Southern Europe, very strong Catholic. And then we have the Balkan and Western Europe. It's more secular, Protestant combined with some Catholic, but both Protestant and Catholic does not have the dominion anymore they had. So it's more the secular postmodern world. So there's differences, but we can hold hands.
Yeah, because even considering you got Northern Europe, where the state had a lot of influence in Germany and Scandinavia, where there's still state church.
State church, yeah.
Then England is Anglican, which was neither Catholic nor Protestant,
but still very involved in society. They still have the parish ideas, and they have the vicar is still involved in things of society, while the pastors here in Amsterdam, they're not invited in secular events to bless it or to pray.
Yeah.
They've been pushed out of the
at some point pushed out, but perhaps in other ways also withdrawn.
Withdrawn, yeah. I mean, that's true. It's not adversary. It's more the mindset changed, and we gave a lot of the social domain to the government. I mean, the government takes care of that domain, so why should the church be involved? But also a lack of vision, kingdom vision, so to speak. So that drove the small churches more into the personal spiritual domain. And then you lose influence, you lose relevance. So that was a trend going on for many years.
When we do, how do you see that playing out in different contexts in Europe, and that re-engaging of society and restoration of relationships, even between the different religions, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, and other various forms, Lutheran, and re-engaging with government?
Yeah, that's a big question, Jacob. But what I think it starts with theology, with the idea. How do you look at scriptures? How do you look at the mission of the church? And I think that is a shift that's going on. I read a book on a study on missiology in various denominations, from evangelical to Catholic and Protestants. And you see a shift in missiology, that it's not only to extend the church, but to bring God's kingdom into society. And of course, you want to bring people to Jesus, and of course you want to grow your church, but growing your church is not the main goal anymore. And that's a very broad thing that's in the missiology of many mainstream and new churches. Not so much at the church level and in every believer. But that's very important, because if you do not understand from Scripture what the mission of the church is in terms of engaging the whole world, all the spheres of society, then you won't develop your church into that direction. So what I see, and that's worldwide, but also in Europe, that many pastors and denominations are accepting the kingdom mandate and the kingdom mission and studying it, and then have the question, what does it mean for my church? So the whole idea that the church exists because God is in mission, that's something that is emerging in various parts of the church, in various dimensions. And that's the common ground. So if you don't have that foundational theological framework, which can vary with various degrees or emphasis, but if that foundation is there, then you have a lot of incentive to go explore how a church mission is more than just getting new members. And that's a movement I see, and I think it's a movement of the Spirit worldwide. Now, to translate that into how to do mission and what it means, that is a long journey, and we have to we see that God is inspiring people to take churches along to that journey. Sometimes in cities, some denominations ask these questions and wrestle with it. So, and I think that's brewing in Europe in various things, and also to be marginalized. I sometimes compare it with the cycle of grief. So church decline, losing ground. 70 years ago, I think 70 or 80% of Amsterdam was a baptized person in some church. And
the various denominations.
Various denominations, either Protestant, Catholic. But it was a Christian nation, and everybody had knowledge about Christianity, the Bible in some degree, was attached to a church or member.
And Bible was taught at school.
Prayers.
Right.
So, but in these 70 years, that is lost. So we now it's in Amsterdam, we estimate about 3.5% is still actively engaged in some kind of form, like monthly attendance or something like that in a church.
So that's 35,000 out of a million in Amsterdam, roughly.
That was my measurement 5 years ago. I think we are increasing now. Maybe it's 40,000, but that's the good thing, that 70 years of church decline is now changing, so we changed the trend. But from that position, you either die as a church or you come. So the grief cycle is first denial.
Because there was more like dominance, the majority, decline.
So
anger, perhaps.
Anger,
disillusionment,
and then you're like frozen. You do apathy, And then when you accept your situation, you can grow into new innovation. You can stand up again. Like a person that's in grief can come to a point that he embraces life in a new way, does new things. And I feel that some denominations like charismatic Pentecostals, they were in that cycle a little bit earlier because they didn't have that long history of grief. They came out of the church, tried to renew it, but didn't work in the church. But mainstream churches are now reinventing themselves, accepting innovation and rethinking, because they're in the margins because of this grief. And that's a good point to start new things.
So do you see that that's across Europe? Because here in Holland, obviously the church was a majority, like here in Amsterdam, like you're saying. but France was majority Catholic, and evangelicals were considered a cult.
Yeah.
In Poland, it's also majority Catholic, and then you were talking in Greece, it's Orthodox.
Yeah.
Do you see this kind of trend, what we see here in Holland, also across Europe?
Yeah, I think the level of how deep the church was marginalized is different. And if you have, like, in Greece, for instance, the majority of the population is still on paper connected to the Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
But a large number of them are not actually actively in their spirituality and their church connection. So secularism is in all countries a trend, and that's the acceptance of new movements, of rethinking and missional movements is different. I mean, in the Balkan and in Greece, there's still a lot of rejection if you step out in that space. But what it does is the people that are the evangelicals and the charismatics and some Protestant movements, they are so much in the margin that they need each other. So collaboration becomes a totally different. And then we come into the whole conversation later into building ecosystems. So one church cannot change a trend. And if you're in the margin, you're not triumphalists. I will make it, I will change this city. No, you're very much aware that from the margin you need grace of God, you need a renewal movement, and you need each other. So I see that from different realities, that sentiment is brewing, and God is injecting hope. If you don't have hope, you won't start a movement. You won't start to change.
Yeah.
But I think through the internet and to what God is doing worldwide, and through people that are sent to nations to stir up the church. So like people in the Netherlands, like we talked about Floyd McClung, he was a big catalyst in Amsterdam and in the Netherlands to stir the church to really hope for change and growth and collaboration. And you need people like that. But it needs to have an atmosphere that the church is ready to receive people like that. And that's what we try to do in Europe, try to bring hope, to catalyze movements of collaboration and kingdom thinking. But the realities are similar, but also different in terms of some are the Orthodox, the Catholic. But when the religion becomes culture, actually secularism is big. It's not a revival culture. It's not a strong believing church. But there's a lot of tradition and a lot of culture still. Foundation.
Actually, and I think maybe switch over to some of the work you're doing here. It was really mind-blowing to hear about the work that's been done here in southeast Amsterdam, where there's a huge migrant population. And so the church is growing because of migrant churches from very, very many from Africa. And they do have this impetus to do good works and to care for neighbors, but so splintered because they all, they come from their own denomination, start their own denominational church here, not necessarily looking to work together, but because of some of the work that you and others have done here in Amsterdam, researching, surveying, collecting data, and creating reports, presenting it to city government to actually demonstrate, wow, when we actually combine everything together, the church is actually very relevant now and actually doing quite a large percentage of the social work that is being done in the city. Tell a bit more about how that resurgence of being part of society, contributing to society, and now connecting to the societal leaders, how that's been revitalized here in Amsterdam.
Yeah, well, if if you look at Southeast, that's the majority of churches are migrant churches, right? Migrant churches come from cultures where there's more a holistic approach to life. We are very segmented here. Church spirituality is part of your life, but the rest of your life, we don't know if that integrates very well. In many migrant people, they have a holistic worldview more. Although there's a lot of denominationalism and church-centeredness from where they come from Africa, Caribbean, other parts of our colonies. They come here and sometimes they get instruction from the denomination still in Africa or
right.
So what happened here is they created a network of migrant churches, Pentecostal in this case, and they were dealing with their issues of being migrants or immigrants here together. So that was their focus. But then a leader came that had a real kingdom transformational vision, and he was transforming their conversation as follows. He said, you're not here to plant a Nigerian or Ghanese or a Suriname tribe, but you're here to serve the city. You're like missionaries. So you're placed here, now embrace it. And they started, and also already these churches care for the whole person inside the church, for the members. So actually a pastor is a little bit a social worker. But now they said, that's not only for us, but that's what we do for our neighborhoods. So they started to experiment and work more as churches to reach out and to be active in the social domain with the love of Christ and their gifts towards the brokenness and the pain of society. And also what they started to do is say some things as in transformation of our district or area, we cannot do individually, we can do together. So they have started projects together, for instance, in the medical sphere. I can explain that later, that project, but they work with the MC, the medical hospital, academic medical hospital, to do things in the neighborhood that the hospital cannot do alone and the church cannot do alone, but they can do it together. So they work together. So they have a vision, holistic kingdom vision, to impact and love and to serve their society. And after 10 years of this influence, we did an impact study with 50 churches, and average church has 10 projects in the social domain.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
And they together had like 320,000 volunteer hours, not in their services and, doing Sunday worship and Bible study, but in the social domain, and reaching an enormous part of their city, serving them in like 14 areas of social pain. And so when we brought it together in that survey, that's not one church, but all those faith communities and some of the specialized ministries, also Christian inspired. And we brought that together in a report to the government. The government here, the city district council, was kind of blown away. They knew the churches had a big impact because their social workers ran into them,
Right.
But now it's made clear, and we monetized it. It's like if you do all the hours paid and volunteer against minimum wage, you end the investment in projects, and you come for these 50 churches in 7.5 million euros. And it's very conservative because so, but not only the money, but the amount of projects, the amount of volunteers, and the innovative ways that they are engaging, that started a whole new conversation in that district. So now, obviously, the church leaders are They have to work together because the government cannot deal with 140 leaders. But if they work together, they have a seat on the table. And that is important in Amsterdam, where in the eyes of the government, the church was totally irrelevant. It was one of the, we were in the diversity domain, they call it, with the action groups and the LGBTQ and everything that has an agenda. It was in that domain. But we wanted to be in the social domain.
I don't think Christians ever saw themselves in that domain.
Yeah, no, we didn't. But now they're invited to be on the table. And we started conversations to dream together for the welfare of the city and how we can contribute as churches and play our role and still be a prophetic. I mean, we don't have to agree with everything the government does. The government does not have to agree with everything the church does. But we can hold hands and work together for the welfare of the city. And we did the same study in the north, where it is the most secular part of Amsterdam. And we also are a big player there in the social domain. And that made the churches more aware that we do play a role. Because if you come out of the grief cycle, you have to regain hope and relevance for yourself. So it's inspiring for church members. It's an incentive for church leaders to collaborate, because only if we collaborate, we can change a community. And it's an incentive for the government or other stakeholders to work together and to really partner with churches. So that's the outcome of this.
Yeah. And as something like this, a network progresses, it develops into becoming an ecosystem, which is, Keller was the one, I'm not sure if he was the one who coined it, but he, at the end of his book, Centered Church, has that diagram of the 3 circles. And you've taken this diagram and developed more of a progressive pathway of 4 levels of working towards developing a city ecosystem. Maybe just briefly, because this is the first time I've heard about somebody actually, it's at level 1, you can use these tools. At level 2, this. Level 3, level 4, you have an ecosystem. Maybe just give us a high-level perspective of how you go about that.
Yeah, well, that's something, we started trying to pioneer a kingdom collaboration here in the city and mobilizing the church without the paradigm or models. But we felt that a sense of urgency to help to serve the church in that way. And the church is the big C. Yeah? It's all denominations, but also ministries. When I did my dissertational work, I studied the realities of the city. We call it exegesis of the city. So what's going on, who's living there, what are the realities, who's playing there. But I also wanted to study, if you look at the kingdom transformation impact of the church, without us doing a lot of mobilization, what's already happening? What is God already doing? So I use that model from Centered Church, the 3 rings. The inner ring is theological vision, kingdom vision, or I call it, but theological gospel vision for the city. Second is church planting, disciple making, and church renewal. How we growing the church, new people coming into the church. And the 3rd ring is the whole ring of engaging in the pain and the brokenness of society with ministries. So what I did is I did a survey with about 90 leaders on all of the 3 things. And the question was, is there already an ecosystem in the city without us knowing? And the answer is yes, God is working on these 3 levels.
Right.
So what we started to do is bringing those to network the city and to help people understand, give language. To my surprise, a lot of leaders did already have a theology that included the city as their missional focus, but most of them did not work that out into practice, but that was in their mind. So it was not something that it was very separate. Most leaders did not separate themselves from the city. They wanted to engage, but they didn't know how. So if you look at ecosystems, what you start to do together is build on trust. And trust flows from relationships. So the first level of every ecosystem is how are we working on connecting? Are we building relationships between churches, ministries? Do we know each other? Do we love each other? Do we trust each other? So that is a foundational thing. And prayer is a foundational thing. And in our city, our whole ecosystem started with a prayer movement that can be different. So I think, and that's what I added to this Keller model, is prayer should be in the center somewhere. So if people relating together also started to pray not only for the church, but for the city, then if that works, then you can try to collaborate together. And if you collaborate, you come to a different level. Collaboration, you can do projects, you can do all kinds of things, but if you don't collaborate, you don't grow the ecosystem. But if you collaborate, then at a certain point you can become strategic to really build strategy into focus and to goals. But to set goals across the ecosystem, you need a lot of trust and buy-in. And if you want to really transform, that's the level 4, a city or an area, you have to work together with marketplace leaders, with professionals and leaders from all the spheres, and become truly holistic. So that are the 4 levels that we work with in the Netherlands to really assess where an ecosystem is and to build it. So if you look at, if you're still in the area and the phase of trying to build some momentum of relationship building and prayer, then you should not try to set goals or you should not do research together. You should start with more fellowship and why, and maybe have somebody inspiration and start talking about vision to really help that movement from relationship to understand the why and the next how and next steps, and to be an encourager and to collect more people. But if you are in a later stage, you need more tools like the research tool that we talked about, or consultations, or to bring the leaders to another city that's on another level to see how leaders do things and work together. Maybe there's other tools. So our toolbox makes sense. Different tools make sense in different levels.
Well, thank you, Piet.
Thank you, Jacob, for everything.
Any question for the small groups as we break out into our rooms? What would be 2 questions you would have them discuss?
Yeah, first of all, we started the discussion with God is working worldwide into this idea of that it's about the kingdom and it's about collaboration instead of church and organization building. So do you see that happening in your context? Do you see that trend and God's Spirit? Can you confirm that, or do you question that? That's maybe a good question. Secondly, I think what is in your context the stage? I talked about various stages. Where do you think you are at? You're starting to build relationships. By the way, relationship building is always part of our work. Will always be. Or are there opportunities to go from relational building to collaboration to strategic or more holistic work? If you look at what's in your context, what's going on, what would you say? What is the emphasis or the next step you want to take?
Yeah, thank you. All right, we'll break out into breakout rooms and we'll see you on the other side.